So we're all friends here. I think that's the first thing to remember. The XR community is a group of people that are really super engaged with each other as well as the work that they're doing. And I'm really super excited and proud to kick off this Can We Tell You Stories? This is going to be fun. So without further ado, let's move to the next slide. Who are we talking with today? My friend Muki. I'm going to let you do a little deeper introduction of yourself for about a minute, but I've known Muki for a while. At my other previous employment, I worked with a device manufacturer that had head tracking. And you built this amazing immersive experience for a pretty well-known artist, but let's first get your background.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me. Hello, Dolby House. My name is Muki Kulhan. I'm a Chief Innovation Officer and Executive XR producer and a creative technologist of my own company called Muki International, with my background being in music, tech, and sport from MTV, BBC, Marvel, Red Bull, pop culture. I'm also the innovation co-lead for the IBC Accelerator R&D program, which is the big international broadcasting convention that happens in Amsterdam every year. The project that we're talking about, is the VT playing now, or are we going to wait? Wait. Sure. So the things that I, as a person that explores living R&D, we're always constantly looking at new, bleeding, and cutting-edge parts of emerging technology. And I've got the left brain engineering side and the right brain creative side that can translate that into a fan experience, which is where I come into play as an executive producer, creating lots of content and then sharing knowledge about it. So the project that you're talking about, we worked with a really, really amazing drum and bass artist, rapper, MC called Harry Shotta. He's a UK-based MC, but he tours globally, and he actually is a Guinness Book of World Record holder for most words rapped in a song. He beat Eminem about 8 years ago, and in fact, Eminem's last album gave him a little drop a mic, boom. Yeah, and so we created a live, immersive, spatial audio experience, and you're going to see a little bit more on that later.
Awesome. I met Muki through that previous form of employment, and which got me interested in spatial audio, and that's when I had an opportunity to work on probably the most iconic brand project ever, which was Star Wars with Jason Yim.
Hi everyone, Jason Yim, CEO of Trigger XR. We're the world's most experienced XR agency, 300,000 hours. We do a lot of work on the entertainment side, so besides Star Wars, Jurassic, Spider-Man, we did Avatar this year as well. And then we also do sports and then commerce. So commerce would be Walmart, Starbucks, Coke, things like that. But we work with Dan in the Bose AR days as well. Did a Super Bowl project and then the big Star Wars thing, which was a kind of a nerd heaven thing that I still can't believe it happened, but it's super fun. It's cool. No. Skywalker Ranch, yeah, it's super fun. Anyways.
Yeah, and you've been working with Niko here on some projects. We'll pass it along to Niko.
I would hope that any half-decent XR storyteller would be asking the question, why is a person from Verizon on the XR storytelling panel? Even cruddy XR storytellers should be asking that question. But prior to Verizon, I ran a team at USA Today telling the news and stories of journalism through 360 VR and AR. And prior to that, ran original video content production at Microsoft for a long time. So pre-Verizon Niko will be talking to you today, and no, I don't talk about myself in the third person.
And Andy Cooper. So Andy and I met, February 9th. This is the date I met him in person.
You mean like last month, February 9th?
Like last month.
I met his. You got some catching up to do, bro.
It's a quick relationship.
Andy's with Drawing Code. They were the amazing agency that gave us a little hand with a demo downstairs you might have seen. The Coco verse, and I met his co-founder at AWE. So it all becomes a really clear point that you meet people at these events just like this, and you never know where it's going to come out.
The serendipity of South by Southwest is a great example of that. Just like running into people at the bar, you will find the people you will make beautiful music with. It's really incredible. Everybody just seems so open to working together. I'm creative director and founder of Draw and Code. We are a Liverpool headquartered immersive experience company. We do all the creative and technological internal. We're a company of 50, but it's not really about the technology or the people. It's about the beautiful experiences. And we create beautiful experiences using technology as magic. We want to find the reason people should give a shit about using the technology and connecting as humans, whether it's the metaverse or XR experiences or in person here or in virtual environments. And it's been a wonderful opportunity to collaborate with Dan here on the experience downstairs, the Cocoverse, which hopefully we'll be able to talk about a little later on.
And Joanna, you have the most interesting startup I've seen in a long time.
I agree.
I'm lost for words, but generative content powered by AI.
Yeah, so a brief intro about myself. I'm an executive producer at InWorld AI. If I have to pitch it in one line, we provide brains, emotions, intent to characters. Why did I end up here? Is because I feel that this is the last step for a full immersive experience. My background is in storytelling, XR overlapping the physical world and digital spaces. I've worked on interactive since times of Unit 9 in London, so I spent most of my life in the UK. And working next to studios, looking at XR storytelling and furthering with all different technologies how we can do fully immersive stories. The biggest hurdle we've been having as we go to spatial audio and we're able to create twin spaces that are a canvas for our creation is that often our characters we wouldn't be able to interact with them and having a one-on-one human experience. And hopefully that's what InWorld AI will be doing now. And we're working already with Jason, with Niko, and I hope to be working with these guys too.
We have to now.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, so you hit on a keyword, audio. For us at Dolby, it's important. We have this idea that we want experiences that folks are making to have the best quality audio and visual components to that. Kind of the plumbing underneath the amazing stories that you're going to tell. Let's talk about audio for a moment. I'm going to jump over to you, Muki, and let's talk a little about how you took basically a music album and turned it into some XR. And before we start there, let's roll that.
What's going on? It's good to see you. How you been? I can't believe we ain't linked up for so long. I've been so busy with work, I ain't even seen the team.
The Consequences project came about from my manager Dave. He basically linked up with Rob Morgan, Playlines, and he kind of exposed me to what Rob was doing with the beacon technology, and they both thought it'd be incredible to tell this kind of story in this sort of setting through lyrics, through bars.
When we had the opportunity to start working with Harry Schotter, what we discovered was that not only is he an amazing gigging rapper, but that he has a really amazing ear for the kind of dramatic monologue style of rap that's very character driven and that tells a real story. And we quickly realized that we were going to be able to combine his talents to create something that was part concept album, part silent disco, and part immersive theater experience. Because we were able to tell a story through rap, thanks to Harry, that would be straight out of the drum and bass and grime scene, but which we, through augmented reality, could put our players right in the middle of and let them explore freely.
Storytelling in music's always kind of excited me. I've listened to many rappers over the years who have inspired me through their storytelling and stuff like that. So I thought if I could write a 3.5 minute piece telling a story, why couldn't I write a 60-minute piece with all kind of endings and all kinds of consequences and characters? In terms of this story, it isn't just a linear story that starts and finishes. It's got its own little elements where if you go this way, this happens. If you go this way, that happens. And I wanted it to be layered as well. So you might just hear one little peep out of one character if you go this way, but if you go that way, you're going to hear more about the character. The reason I like doing sort of stuff in the tech industry with the music, because I think young people, my audience, they're using all this stuff and they want new experiences. They want to experience stuff in new ways. young people just want new and exciting ways to get their content these days, rather than the same tried and tested manners of, of just putting stuff on the radio or just putting stuff on, the music platforms. There's other ways to get the message out there. There's other ways to put the music out there. And I think I'm just all about sort of creativity and innovation. And with the technology that's available, I'm not about using tech just for tech's sake, but if I've got a story that sells that can be enhanced by the tech, that's what I'm all about. And I think that's what we've brought together, particularly in Consequences. The partnership with Bose is incredible. We was out at FOST, Future of Storytelling in New York, made an introduction to Matthew from Bose. He loved what I was doing with the music, then he heard the Consequences stuff and he's like, wow, I've got these incredible frames that we could, throw towards you guys for the project. And, in terms of the spatial audio, that adds a whole new element to what we're doing. And I think that can be developed further in terms of future writing, future projects, future stuff with Playlines, future stuff I'm doing. It can only enhance what we're doing with that kind of spatial audio from Bose.
So, Muki, you had this amazing project launch prior to COVID.
Yes.
What's next for this project? Because Bose AR doesn't exist.
No, but I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for that experience because it did let us, explore that technology with not only new hardware, but the new software as well. And like Harry said, not just using text for text's sake, but, you don't want that chubby bear syndrome where you're just trying to shove so much into one place and then it doesn't move. It just sits there and it stays put. So what's next for Harry Schotter, because we did basically had a lot of success with it, won some awards, Future Storytelling, went to Norway with it. We're about to go on tour, ladies and gentlemen. And then the 2020 pandemic hit. But we've always kept working with Harry and he's an amazing creative. You saw in the video the way the experience works where you become a character in a hip hop album and in the sound of the police. There we go. As you do. But what's really amazing, what also that project brought to us is meeting you. And now with Dolby, what's really great is that we're looking to see what the right tools are to fit into the next phase. Because we have a tour coming up with this project, but it's going to be so much more than just that 6 degrees of freedom immersiveness of becoming part of an album, the talents of Harry. There'll be, it's almost like the next edition, part 2 of what's coming into that. So I think, we're exploring some of the tools with some of the partners here. And I think watch this space and I think, planning for South by 2024 already. So yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah, for sure. Jason, so that little project we did together, yeah, might as well say it. Star Wars, right? My boss at the time said, I want to step into the film. And how hard is it to take the most iconic piece of content out there and reimagine it for an audio-only XR experience with spatial audio?
Yeah, so, we had been working with Lucasfilm for over 10 years on all this kind of different media. We started with advert gaming with them on the web, and we had done AR stuff in app. Actually, on another panel, saying that we were pitching AR to them for 7 years. Like, as soon as we got mobile AR to work with Qualcomm, the first demo we built was a clone trooper in AR, and the first people we showed it to was Lucasfilm, and we showed them that same demo for 7 years before they put it into the first, I think it's like Force Awakens into the Star Wars app. So they were kind of already familiar with the storytelling using AR, and we were just really excited when the Bose opportunity came around, where for us it was even though we're doing spatial stuff visually, it was a complete different challenge to have so much of it being an audio experience. And I think the really exciting thing was typically on the marketing side, we may get the 3D models and stuff from ILM and whatnot, and we'll down-res it and make it work in AR. But there's not that much kind of additional storytelling work with the filmmakers. And then on Bose, that's why we were super nerded out. Like, we got to work with Skywalker Sound, with the sound engineers. They got the original stems from the film.
Or made them up.
Yes, or made them up. So there was like one scene on the Millennium Falcon that we were recreating, but they made 40 additional stems to be mixed into this spatial environment. And yeah.
And that was 6DOF. At the time, we fired up a camera and tracked the floor. a lot of this innovation came from back and forth working with them. So the early adoption of technologies, whether it's Dolby's or anybody else's, is such a huge part. Niko, why don't you kind of lend your point of view with that? Verizon's doing a lot with 5G, but also within the realm of the storytelling stuff that you've done.
The dirtiest word in XR today is metaverse, but the second dirtiest word is storytelling, because nobody knows what you mean when you say that, because it means so many different things to so many different people. So my ask of all of you and all of us as storytellers and participants in this ecosystem is just define the term when you use it. Say what you mean, because it is. I mean, as I've gotten older and crustier, I have more empathy for people who use the word in different different situations. But definition of terms is so important in this in the early stages of this new medium that we're all experiencing, and grappling and trying to understand the new tools. And I think it's critical that we all think about tools like spatial audio, like AR, like 3D mapping, like generative AI, as the new tools that we are just beginning to understand what they can do. And we're just scratching the surface of possibility. So we have to be open to, open and vulnerable and willing to make those mistakes and take that leap of faith of using it in a way that is different or not what is intended or not what makes sense. And the technologists will give you the tools. The creators will use them in ways expected and unexpected. But just really internalize that thought of, XR is a new medium. And this is now, maybe the 7th or 8th South by where that statement has been made in one way or another. But I still find that people don't really understand it or don't really give it as much credence as they should, because you still get questions like, what's the killer app in XR? What's the best way to use XR for storytelling? And if you really did believe that it was a new medium, that same question would be, what's the best way to use the written word in telling stories? What's the best way to use video to tell a story? Which is both an appropriate question and a completely ridiculous one at the same time. We are like spatial. Everybody knows, or everybody here at this esteemed panel and in the audience knows the importance of audio, of sound, of spatial audio. But I think we're starting to learn how to use it, and we're applying our traditional media understanding of, tell a story, okay? Maybe linear, beginning, middle, and end, maybe. Non-linear, no beginning, middle, and end. Maybe we're not actually telling the story, maybe we're just building the environment and people are exploring within it. Maybe the audience is a storyteller. That's kind of scary because then I don't have a job. These are the things that I think we all need to grapple with as we move through XR storytelling.
It's about who you're making it for. Like, what is the story you want to tell? Who is it for? How do you want to make somebody feel? And that's where you start from that, right?
The example. Sorry, I will shut up.
He was really wanted to get in.
Okay,
The example.
the gloves are off.
When I was building experiences in news, we started telling first factual news stories, beginning to end, in VR, and then we realized that doesn't really There's no benefit to that ultimately, apart from making people sick. We're just doing something that could have been better with a photo or 2 paragraphs of text. But one that just was amazing, and we kind of came upon it by accident, was we captured a crime scene, an actual crime scene, and there was evidence all over the place, and there was step-by-steps there, and you got to explore that first in 3DOF, later in 6DOF, and eventually in free roam, and go and experience all the stuff that was there. And it was a very CSI-like experience. You know, forensic exploration, draw conclusions for yourself. Here are the facts. Here's what we think we know. Here's some stuff that we haven't verified yet. You draw your own conclusions. That was amazing. There's no beginning, middle, and end to that. Or maybe there is, but it's different for every user. But we had to do that, to learn that, to know that for the next thing that we were going to make.
I just love what you were saying about people asking, what's the killer app? Like, what's going to be the thing that's launched by technology companies or technology platforms? And us in the industry get caught up in our own bullshit, because the people who want to experience the content and create the content are already out there doing it, like whether we like it or not, and it's going to come from that neck of the woods. More people use Snapchat AR than use Twitter, full stop. But no one calls it augmented reality. It's filters. It's fun ways to engage with product or brands or friends, and sharing moments with friends and family. You know, kids are on Fortnite playing video games. Like, kids are engaging in those environments. They're not calling it metaverse. They're not calling it some kind of catchphrase. Like, they're in there. Like, during lockdown, we had VR helmets. What decade am I in? VR headsets distributed to every member of the team, so we could connect both in work, kind of spatial, kind of playing games together, and afterwards so we can have fun. And in there, we played Population 1. We thought, we'll play this. If anybody doesn't know it, it's a shooter. It's a kind of fun, silly game. But in the lobby, there was performance art. There were kids going around kind of telling stories, making jokes, doing weird dancing. There was crowds forming around. They were doing, what's the thing from Karate Kid?
Macarena.
Yeah, but all of that was happening, and it wasn't being curated by Population 1 or Meta or us. Like, they were making it happen, and that's what I'm excited about. By the people who don't know how you use technology are using it like a tool, like a paintbrush.
Yeah, Joanna, so generative, real-time interacting with your audiences, can that go... what happens? Can that go well? Can that go incredibly dangerously wrong? Maybe you can set up a context of the experience they get with in-world, for instance.
Everyone is very scared of AI, right? That's what's happening. Actually, why I'm working in AI, it comes from a place of fear at first, and I'm the first to raise the hand. Because, I've always been working on the cusp of innovation and storytelling, and this is such a powerful tool, but in all the senses, and we're all still trying to look at the possibilities of it. And at some point, I was like, okay, this is going to happen, so we want to make sure that we have people that have a responsible take on it, that want to tell good stories, see it as a tool, like all the other tools that we've been developing, It's not like anchors in the real world that track you and say where you are. It's not as equally as scary. It's just now we had a few years to digest, to understand how you apply that to experiences, right? So I think what you want is incredible creators that take the tool. And I think, going to what you're saying, Niko, I think storytelling is as relevant, it's all about convergence. And it starts with playfulness when we're kids. And what we have and we're doing is that we have all these different tools that can enrich the experience. And sometimes we might just want to write a story. And sometimes we might just want to throw all these different elements. And giving brains to characters is just a different level of that you get into that immersiveness. I just see that we're a bit scared because we haven't played with it enough. What I like about in-world AI is one of the things, and now I'm making a plug, yes, is safety. It's one of the things that are we speak internally on a daily basis, understand what filtering, what are the responsibility of these characters. And we're currently in the process of identifying the creators that, to work alongside them. How do we craft these brains, and is a thing where how design these brains to make sure that they're sound for the experiences, like you would do with any of the other tools that we're using to tell our stories.
Yeah, to second what both Joanna and Niko said, not only is it like a whole bunch of new tools, but you have to play with every single one of them because they're brand new. And then once you have a new tool to add to the palette, then you have to play with them all over again because you don't know how they mix together. So yeah, it's a...
Just before the pandemic, I was at South by, and I remember the general conversation around audio in XR storytelling, largely VR at the time, was is spatial audio, like, do we have to bother with it? Isn't audio good enough? And because the visuals were so difficult to deal with at the time. Now, finally, people realize that ears don't blink, and audio is just important as visual. And now the conversation is, how do we use spatial audio the best, or in the best possible ways, to do whatever? Because we've used the tools, and Dolby and others have made the tools accessible and easier. And I think generative AI is where spatial audio was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, with a little bit more scary stuff with it too.
And it's still about the content and what is again getting to the heart of, like, what are you making, who is it for, how do you want to make them feel? I'm repeating myself, but we can mix and match 1,000 different tools for anything, but will it help produce the right feeling for the story that you want to tell? And it's getting creative with that too. So
Yeah, absolutely. I want to pause for a second, throw out a question for our esteemed panel here.
You say playing with tools, but these are tools that will affect people's lives, possibly profoundly. What do you see as your responsibilities when you're playing with a new tool/weapon?
1,000% is our responsibility as creators. You know, just like if someone's making a car, they're responsible for the safety of anyone in that car. Full stop. And we think about it, I'm sure collectively, I'll speak every single day. Like, what are those tools you're using? Safety, 1,000%, especially in the last 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. And as we start to look around how we will be perceived in different and various platforms and various worlds and verses and spaces, 3D, 4D, 6D, 6 stuff, you name it. I would never, ever ship anything or publish anything or even make a presentation if I didn't know it was going to be, have the user's safety in mind, mentally, physically.
From my side is making sure the network is there for all of your creation, production, distribution needs in the way that is most critically important for the experience. And that's something that traditionally content creators didn't have to think about, but you do now in XR, because you're dealing with, particularly in 3D holographic, you have to become network specialists, unfortunately. But that's a component of your job that you need to learn, and that we need to provide. But what I was going to say more broadly is, for any of you starting in the space or beginning, play with the tools, make whatever you want to make, and please don't publish the first thing that you make, because it's going to suck. And you might not know that because you're so enamored with what you've created. And I'm sure it'll be beautiful and wonderful in some ways too, but it is going to suck. And you will only know that after you've created a few more and you look back on it. I don't say that, one of my responsibilities when I was at USA Today was training a national group of videographers to become VR videographers. And we built a training session, and we showed them how to use the tools and how to stitch and put things together. And we begged them, please, in your local papers, on your local websites, don't publish your first experiences. And nobody paid attention, and we were part of the problem of creating the current, what am I trying to say? The current public perception that VR makes you sick. And VR doesn't make you sick. Bad VR created by creators who don't know what they're doing makes you sick.
There's a level of maturity that you have to have before you make that release, working with the tools.
I just wanted to jump in about, I agree about the, you don't have to publish something or, on whatever your socials are or whatever. However, I'll speak in my grammar. There are really amazing communities out there that you can start to be a part of, whether that's the Reddits or Facebooky things, like not so much anymore, but even WhatsApp groups. And I really believe in that open collaboration, like we're talking about it now, and finding your peers that you can bounce ideas off of and try things, break it, put it back together, just see what works, what doesn't work, and then just get some feedback. So even people you're meeting here, there's going to be like mini forums and R&D hubs, and it's almost like going to your local coffee shop and having the pin board and seeing like, oh, I have this idea about something, like little collaboration. So Slack channels are good for that too. There's Discords, all kinds of things that you can kind of just play around with, and don't live in fear that someone's going to judge you and make you feel bad about trying something.
I think having the confidence to be brave and take some risks and put yourself out there, I think, like I understand what you're saying, that when things are very early, it can help to put off an audience, but also by putting something out early, it can help to inspire an audience. And if you hold things too far back, you can just miss a boat before you even knew the boat was there.
Yeah, so Andy, you just helped us release a demo app that we have downstairs. It's all about fan engagement. That was the hypothesis, right? It was like, how can you come up with something to engage the audience in a different way that we haven't seen before? And you had a clever way of telling a story about going to a nightclub.
I think it's a really interesting time that we're in now. Like going back to your comment on safety and us as humans and how we're going to be working together. I think we as humans have been here in real life for thousands of years, working out how we're going to talk to each other and the social etiquette of, not just breaking out into a fight and being respectful of personal space. In these virtual environments, in these XR immersive worlds, like we haven't developed this. So it is down to the creators and the participants to work through some of the laws and rules of how this is going to happen. So, and part of the Cocoverse that we've put downstairs, and we've been working with you on this tech demo, is looking at how can we create a space in a virtual environment that recreates an inspiring location for people to visit their favorite artists and engage with that favorite artist concurrently with that artist performing on stage in real life in front of a real audience, and have that dialogue. Because that's the big thing, is like, how do you have, when Fortnite had a lot of their shows that were going on, it was a passive experience, right? It was a brilliant experience, and lots of money was spent on avatars and customizations, and it looked incredible. But you bounced around with friends and shot each other and climbed up making forts and watched amazing things happen. But how do you have that? How do you crystallize the serendipity of being in the audience, squished up amongst friends, sweating, and the singer sings to you, and you scream back, and they giggle, and they do something, and all of a sudden the crowd does something amazing, and the artist reacts. Like, that's what we're looking to create downstairs with the Dolby I/O tool set that they've opened up to allow creators to play with the spatial and the streaming, live streaming. Like, I think it's really incredible what we're going to try and explore.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the idea, you can stream an experience out of a headset to your friends just by sharing a link. And maybe you have 100,000 friends. And if you're producing these experiences, it adds another level of capability. But then there also adds that level, as we've been talking about, of a little more responsibility on what's being shared out.
I'd just like to add something that I think there's an iterative point of creation at its whole. I think that's what we do. What I'm really proud about our industry, that sometimes other industries don't tackle as much because in the rush of having something ready and made, is is proof of concepts, and we're open about that learning journey, and we're accountable with one another. That's one of my favorite things, and that's a creative process. It's a learning process of the tools, and I think XR, as we're now in this point of conversion with all these different tools that we represent here in different ways, that's what we're doing. We're all collaborating. There's all these touching points that there's many projects that we're yet to see that is not showcased in the physical world, but we're learning and the accountability about creation, safety, understanding the medium, and as creators and as consumers. And that's why I feel really hopeful in what we're doing and the possibilities of storytelling within that.
I would also say that, like, on these projects, there's always, when you talk about responsibility, there's so many levels that we'll have to deal with before we actually complete the project, you know? So we were talking yesterday on an entertainment panel, like if we're doing something for Spider-Man, for instance, you know, we're working with the filmmakers. It has to be on brand, on character. Are they saying what the character would say? But then that's also going to a legal group. Is it compliant with all the kids' laws and that kind of stuff? Can you chat with a character if you're under 13? Blah, 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 blah. So it's all kind of, you know, a little bit dry having to go through those hurdles, but it puts a boundary on things for sure.
I am just like blown away by all of y'all. So my background's in education and teaching, so all this is new to me. And so I would like to ask y'all, what is y'all's creativity and storytelling rooted in? And if you can go back to when you started out, or when this was just an idea, or when you were just like an artist, or when you first started out, what are the things that like you would say to yourself?
For me, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Like,
You're going to the 80s animation.
Hell
Oh,
yes.
man, okay.
Like, for me, it's not convergence, it's smush. It's just like all of these wonderful things coming together to tell a story. Like, how can you create something that's inspiring, that's here and here and here, and let's put it together with duct tape, metaphorically and in reality, and just have fun.
I wrote jingles when I was like 5 years old with my brother. We'd sit with the tape recorder and like sit there and just make up songs and ads. And I just thought it'd be really, really cool to try to do that. My degree is actually, once upon a time, broadcast journalism. And I loved telling those stories and writing for the paper or going to interview people. And I still, to this day, it's just, you know, I'm really interested in, you know, how people interact and get excited about something. And then, you know, that kind of like almost behavior, but it's about that creativity of being able to produce something and seeing somebody's reaction and get excited. And that's never going to end either. So like the tools back then were, you know, you've got your word processors and computers and now phones and with the design of things and, you know, what keeps you going. Yeah, I think it's about keeping curious and reminding yourself that there's always somebody else to talk to about it, and that's got just as much curiosity as you do. That sounds a bit corny, but it's important. I think it's important to be corny too, I think.
One thing exciting coming to South by is all the film stuff. Like for me, of course, living in LA, like everyone else, I'm probably some frustrated filmmaker, you know, write scripts on the side, blah, blah, blah. But I think, yeah. So if this XR thing works out, I'll get to go make movies. But anyways, but I think going back earlier, honestly, I think like my love for Lego and like spatial building and play and telling stories in 3D space, like we're actually seeing that a lot in terms of who we bring on to the company and who we work with. So we work with a lot of industrial designers, museum designers, like, you know, stage, like storytelling in a physical space. And I think that's kind of a unique animal that translates really well into XR. So.
I'm going to mess this up because it's been a long South by and I don't remember the quote exactly, but innovators are the children who have survived our education system. Something along those lines. And I don't mean that as
She's the teacher, remember, so.
I don't mean that as a like editorial reflection on our education system today, but XR represents the clearest avenue to maintain and build on the wonder of learning and the being dazzled by everything around you. And so the possibility of XR in education is so incredibly exciting.
It's a huge sector too.
Absolutely, but the challenge is how do we get money flowing towards there? Because money in education is
Sponsorship.
very difficult. But I had an experience a couple of months ago, and this made me think of education right away, where I was, this was in an augmented reality headset. I was holding a digital ping pong ball, and within the application, and I was in my kitchen, and I threw it at a wine glass, and it bounced off the wine glass, but the glass made the sound of the ping pong ball hitting it. And that was the demo. That was it. But it blew my mind. I'm throwing digital ping pong balls at the wine glasses, wine pong or something. And I'm just thinking, there's so much we can do with this in education, in entertainment, in storytelling. The first part being, we're in my kitchen. We can tell a story in people's personal space. That's mind-blowing. Like, your characters on my sofa, turning on the light in the hallway or walking down my stairs. Whoa! What are we gonna do with that? That's so exciting. The physics of what if it was a golf ball? What if it was a marshmallow? That's how, that's math around you. That's physics in my life. If I was in school and somebody showed me that, I wouldn't be here because I'd be a mathematician.
So I used to work in places. Students don't know this exists. And so when they think of tech, they think of Miss Jenkins working as a recruiter at Adobe when I used to work at Adobe. And so I come to these spaces to see what's possible, because it's not just the students that don't know these spaces exist. It's the parents, it's the teachers, it's the administration. And to be able to be a bridge, even just taking the notes from here and telling my students, telling my parents, telling the people I used to work with that this is tangible or virtually tangible, where you could throw ping pong balls and spark their creativity. Because a lot of these students, the areas that they grow up in, they can't dream of this. They don't see this. And that is a reality of most students in spaces. And so to be in a space where I'm able to just listen and learn and to put names to the people that are creating these things for my students, and to just give hope or just give faith in places where there isn't faith, I just thank y'all, because thank you.
You're such a fucking cool teacher. I wish you were my teacher back in the day.
My wife taught elementary for Title I schools in Crenshaw in LA, and same kind of definitely that same kind of issue. And we've been also working with the Navajo Tech University, again super underserved kind of community, but trying to do kind of a XR 101 kind of, and this is college level to kind of show the tools, but it's super difficult and because it's not just teaching the curriculum. There's so many other issues that are blockers. Wi-Fi. Navajo, like it's electricity in some cases. So all that. So this it's a big. I applaud you, but then it's such a hard fight. It's unless you've actually walked in it and seen it. Like, I don't think on the outside people realize how unfair and how difficult that road is.
So I'm going to throw down that government gauntlet to have some level of responsibility as well, to make tech inclusive for everyone. Everyone deserves a Wi-Fi connection. Everyone deserves to have the opportunity to have that knowledge and learn more, and be included and not feel like they're missing out on something and get left behind. So, well, thank you for that really good question. Thanks for being here.
There's a question to start with, Joanna. You said that you went to AI from a position of fear, which seems very sensible to me. Are you more afraid or less afraid now? What used to scare you and what scares you now?
I'm fearless now, at least
Yes, girl.
within my company, because I'm still grasping with the technology. You know, I come from a creative background. I'm consistently the dumbest person on every single meeting I am. It's not a good feeling to have, but here I am. What I was afraid was about the boundaries. I wasn't understanding of the boundaries. And as I'm talking with our machine learning engineers, and once again, safety conversations about how do we put layers to make sure that these characters are truthful? How do we make sure that they don't go and hallucinate? And then we're spitting gospel to people and take it away, especially if we look at what the algorithms has done to our society in the last 5 years. It's no different, right? So it's that sense of responsibility that I feel we're taking on a daily basis. The other side of it is it opened my head into the possibilities of what we're doing. So some of the projects that we're doing, some are like really creative. Your experience in gaming, you know, great, fantastic. That's the low-hanging fruit that we can see exactly in the experiences that we're used to and how we can push it the next level. But there's other, like exposure therapy that can totally like revolutionize clinical studies and what that brings to the population. Mental health, you're not, and that's the possibility of making us better humans, of train ourselves. We were talking about that actually, right? On healthcare, you know, if you have PTSD, and we put you like in certain situations that are comfortable to you, that you can learn and allow you to go back to society, make us all better humans in training, because we're all allowed to learn through that process before we expose to one another and damage one another. And AI is here to give you that possibility with emotions, with real human interaction. It's not a chatbot. And once I was exposed to that and saw the possibilities on a creative side, it's inspiring, but seeing the practicality on a functional level, that's just equally inspiring. So go back to your question, I'm hopeful. I do think, and going back, the key word is accountability. I know in my company, that's crucial. And I'm prepared also to keep accountable everyone within ourselves and say, I'm not sure about this, and raise our hand. What scares me is the race for profit, releasing things that we're not fully ready to do so. So I think all of us creators have to be in that position to work with one another, keep pushing the technology forward, but always saying, are you sure? What are you doing? Like here, you know, I love this question, the first question we had, because it's about like, how you prepare to tell these stories with all these tools, and where are your boundaries and guidelines.
If you're going to use something like generative AI, at some level, you're kind of responsible for looking into the values and morals and ethics of the company whose tool you're choosing to use. I feel really good about InWorld because Joanna works there, and I know her. And I trust her. And I'm starting to learn about the other people that work there and the values of that company. And I believe what she's saying. But there are other InWorlds out there, and I don't know anything about them, and they might not have the same value set. And that might sound a little corny, but I think we have to be more thoughtful and more diligent about who we choose, both who we choose to work with, but the tools that we choose to use. Do I want to support that company? Do they believe in what I believe?
It's a really good point, actually. And that's good advice for any startups in the room, too. Be careful who you're taking money from, and what are the ethics and values of those investors. And really, it's only the last couple of years that you're starting to sit up and take notice. You know, what is that CEO's background? It's easy to look up people's kind of darker secrets and happier secrets and lighter secrets. But it is important to, you know, work off your gut too, and, you know that you can trust somebody and create something good together.
We're starting as a society to think more about diversity and gender and ethnicity and access. But I think that also needs to evolve into these other areas of not just skin color, but your position on values, on social justice, on climate justice that you might have used to train your AI that is in this tool that is making decisions for the character that I've just used for that brand and this government application. That's a really long, scary thread, but you, the creator, are a big part of that.
What an amazing panel, right? Seriously. Storytelling is about taking human experiences and telling it using technology to tell a point of view a lot of times. But what we're hearing here today is the creators themselves that are doing these stories. It's a lot about their responsibility, about their experience, and I feel really positive about this, right? You look at the direction of some of the most amazing brands have been represented by this amazing panel, but also we have this really amazing opportunity for everybody here who's just starting out to be thinking about these things. Again, thank you for coming.